Kiyoshi harbors a particular fondness for rosy cheeks and derives pleasure from observing young women in private moments. However, due to these unconventional proclivities, he was apprehended and incarcerated. Yet, his pitiable existence as a virgin underwent a dramatic reversal upon the discovery that his jailers are a cohort of buxom and eccentric girls intent on meting out eternal punishment. Prior to this, it was an ordinary day at the academy, where 5 newly enrolled youths found themselves the sole male attendees in an institution historically reserved for women. Being the degenerate virgins they are, their ambition was to initiate conversation with the female student body in the hopeful pursuit of thrilling interaction. Having endured his abstinent state long enough, Kiyoshi announces to his companions his intention to approach one. The group attempts to dissuade him, but he proceeds regardless. His nerve fails him, however, leaving him speechless before the feline-esque girl. Before he can formulate a word, another young woman leads the others away, abruptly terminating his attempted interaction. As the boys mock Kiyoshi for his failure, the girl informs the two he had approached that a group known as the Secret Student Council is surveilling them, and that they must not converse with boys when crows are present. Later, in class, Kiyoshi accidentally drops his eraser. Retrieving it, he makes eye contact with a girl named Chiyo. She remarks on the sumo wrestler depicted on the eraser and observes how foolish it makes him appear. However, during the lunch intermission, Chiyo inquires if he enjoys sumo wrestling. When he professes his adoration, she becomes animated and initiates a conversation. While the other boys await Yoshi's return, he is engrossed in a thoroughly enjoyable discussion with Chiyo. After speaking for hours, they promise to watch a sumo tournament together. Later, in the dormitory, the boys propose spying on the girls' bath. Though Kiyoshi initially hesitates, he is swayed when they exhort him to envision the curves and movements they might witness. They don tight-fitting disguises for camouflage and proceed toward a bathhouse. En route, Gakuto mentions they will be spying on Kiyoshi's class, prompting his realization that his depraved gaze will fall upon Chiyo's precious cheeks. They access the roof but find no entry to the baths. Just as Kiyoshi concedes their plan has failed, Gakuto produces phones for surveillance. At this pivotal moment, Kiyoshi's resolve evaporates. He wholeheartedly endorses the scheme. He volunteers to lower the device, but when Gakuto reveals it is Kiyoshi's own phone, his surprise causes him to drop it through a window. Panic ensues. Though furious, they use his property. The boys urge him to enter and retrieve it before it is discovered. He slips inside. At the moment he secures the phone, Chiyo appears behind him and sees everything. Kiyoshi and his friends believe his life is over, but Chiyo addresses him by her friend's name. They realize Chiyo is nearsighted and their ruse remains intact. She disrobes and instructs Kiyoshi to do the same. Despite his audience, he complies before she leads him into the bath, the location of his paradise. In a show of solidarity, the other boys disrobe and attempt to join. But suddenly, crows materialize and assail them. From the shadows emerge 2 girls standing with menacing authority. Meanwhile, Kiyoshi is bathing quietly with the others when Chiyo's friend arrives. Immediately perceiving he is not who he claims to be, she demands his identity, but before he is exposed, an alarm is raised that boys are spying. The girls subsequently surround the boys, who are crucified for their actions, when the dominant, large-breasted mama inquires about their 5th member. Guda refuses to answer and is struck in his genitals. Elsewhere, Kiyoshi observes from a distance until a girl appears behind him, informing him his comrades are being punished by the underground student council. She shows him a ledger containing Han, the secretary, and Miko, the vice president. When Kiyoshi asks about the president, she turns the page to reveal herself. Mari, known as the Master of Crows, is the council's leader. Moments later, she drags a beaten Kiyoshi away to rejoin the others. He's tearful upon realizing Chiyo witnessed everything. The following day, the council announces that for their transgressions, they will be imprisoned for 1 month, with escape attempts adding another month. They are ordered to build their own prison around the school. When Guda attempts to argue, Miko strikes him into compliance. That day, Miko continues to beat them, and despite their efforts to defend themselves, she and her powerful physique subdue them into positions for which any man would die. Joe coughs blood, and when Miko demands an explanation, he tells her to devour his glizzy, earning himself a severe beating. Andre defends his fallen friend, prompting Miko to command him to kiss her feet. Before he can fulfill this quintessential masculine fantasy, Kiyoshi intervenes. Miko relents, and Kiyoshi successfully saves Andre from humiliation. Later, however, Andre confesses to Kiyoshi that he is upset. When Kiyoshi asks why, the boys turn on him, telling him to mind his own business, as being completely dominated by a well-endowed mama is every man's dream. Though initially disgusted, Kiyoshi capitulates the next day and reacts identically to Miko's abuses. The other boys likewise beg to be asphyxiated by her thing. Mari observes this and dispatches reinforcements in the form of the secretary Hannah to add a new dimension to their punishments. Initially, Hannah is cute and kind to the boys, instructing them to find 4-leaf clovers for her, but when she catches them peeping at some gymnasts, she beats them for their feeble attempt to disguise. Later, when they procure the clovers, Hannah finds a 3-leaf clover among them and beats them all, unlike Miko's assaults. The boys find themselves enjoying Hannah's beatings, particularly as she wears leggings beneath her skirt. Hannah orders them to find more 4-leaf clovers. During the search, Kiyoshi finds a fledgling bird on the ground, far from its nest. He climbs a tree to return it and looking toward a window, sees Chiyo, who tells herself she cannot believe someone who loves sumo like Kiyoshi is a bad person. She asks if he was spying the other day, and though Kiyoshi wishes to tell the truth, he deflects and promises her he will watch sumo with her despite his prison sentence. Meanwhile, the boys manage to find a 4-leaf clover. When Hannah threatens to sever their genitalia, they begin pontificating that the real 4-leaf clovers are the friends made along the way, resulting in another beating. At that moment, Hannah appears beneath Kiyoshi's tree and, unaware of his presence, believes herself alone. She removes her leggings and begins to urinate, unable to hold it, but Crow flies into Kiyoshi, causing him to fall directly on top of Hannah. He lands before her, provoking a scream from Hannah that alerts everyone. When Miko demands an explanation, a mortified Hannah orders Kiyoshi to remain silent. Miko sends the boys back to prison, where they congratulate Kiyoshi for making Hannah cry. All Kiyoshi can think about, however, is his promise regarding the sumo date. Meanwhile, Mari is arguing with the principal, her father, Kiriara, about the boys' imprisonment. While Kiriara aligns with the boys as a fellow man of culture, Mari disagrees with accepting men into the school. Kiriara ultimately concedes to his daughter's argument but orders Mari to grant the boys breaks on weekends. Later, as Miko supervises the boys, Mari appears to inform them that if they behave as model prisoners, they will earn 3 hours of freedom on weekends. Hearing this, the boys are elated, and Kiyoshi sees his chance to fulfill his promise to Chiyo. At that moment, Joe shoves him. When Kiyoshi demands to know why, Joe says he nearly stepped on his ants. They see that Joe keeps ants as friends, but Miko orders him back to work. Upon Mari's return to speak with the principal, she finds his office vacant. However, her attention is captured by the video playing on his computer monitor, a special feature starring Mia Khalifa and Johnny Sins. Incensed by this discovery, Mari marches back to the boys during their break and commands them to resume work immediately, threatening them with weekend labor should they refuse. Kiyoshi attempts to negotiate terms but is met with a sharp slap from Miko, which sends him to the ground. Lying there, he realizes his plans for the date, much like the ants, are in grave jeopardy. The following day, as the boys proceed with their regular duties, the time arrives to take out the trash, a task Kiyoshi now volunteers for with conspicuous enthusiasm. Upon reaching the disposal area, he scans his surroundings to confirm his solitude and begins to act out a scene from Shawshank Redemption. As he emerges, he glances upward and spots Chiyo attempting to communicate with him. She tries to toss a note down, but when it falls short, she instead writes a message specifying the time for their rendezvous, to which Kiyoshi gives an enthusiastic nod of agreement. His return to work is met with the sight of Gakuto being beaten by Miko for Kiyoshi's earlier error. Later, Kiyoshi attempts to apologize, but Gakuto appears strangely indifferent to having taken the blame. However, he subsequently approaches Kiyoshi and presents him with a note Chiyo had thrown, revealing his full knowledge of the clandestine plan. After this revelation, Gakuto begins to behave oddly, pressing uncomfortably close to Kiyoshi in the shower in a manner reminiscent of Diddy, and even striking sumo wrestler poses, which alarms Kiyoshi into fearing he might be exposed to the girls. While Kiyoshi is excavating his tunnel, Hannah appears to confront him, accusing him of telling others about their previous encounter. Kiyoshi assures her he told no one about witnessing her urinate, but Hannah demands he prove his discretion by returning the favor and urinating in front of her. He attempts to argue, but when she threatens to divulge the gaps in his escape plan, he reluctantly agrees. Inside the shed, Hannah squats before him to observe, but before the event can transpire, Gakuto arrives searching for Kiyoshi. After Hannah departs, Gakuto enters the shed, and Kiyoshi realizes he must find a way to ensure his silence. Instead, Gakuto surprises him by offering his assistance in escaping the school. Meanwhile, Mari is showering when Miko offers to scrub her back with her ample melons. Mari confides in her thick and creamy vice president, expressing her deep concerns about the danger the boys represent and her anxiety over letting him out of prison. Later, Mari encounters her father returning home, and a book falls from his arm, revealing a collection of cultured rice cake photographs. This further infuriates Mari, strengthening her resolve to punish the boys more severely. Back in the prison, Kiyoshi and Gakuto are playing tic-tac-toe while discussing their scheme. When Gakuto points out that Kiyoshi's date will take a full 3 hours, Kiyoshi grows pessimistic. Gakuto, however, has a plan, using their game. He sketches the outline of the school building and reveals his strategy to distract the girls so they won't notice Kiyoshi's absence. He agrees to help on the condition that Kiyoshi purchases several limited edition figures for him. The next day, as Kiyoshi is taking out the trash, Gakuto accosts him, furious and reprimanding him for causing trouble through his mistakes. Their argument escalates into a physical fight, prompting Hana to intervene with a kick that demolishes the entire shed. Hana quickly pins the blame on the boys and Miko punishes both men, making them scream in pain in a way that would make lonely losers wish they were in their position. She orders them to repair the shed by themselves. Initially, they beg for mercy, but they begin to laugh as the girls walk away, realizing their punishment grants them constant access to the hole. Their triumph is short-lived, as Hana arrives to sit nearby. When questioned, she explains she is there to continue supervising them, which promptly ruins their plans. She summons Kiyoshi and again orders him to urinate in front of her. When he refuses, she forces him to drink a special tea to accelerate his bladder. Returning to Gakuto, a desperate Kiyoshi is told that Gakuto has an idea to seduce Hana into submission. Kiyoshi tries to dissuade him, but Gakuto proceeds anyway, unleashing his divine pickup line on Hana, which results in him being punched in the stomach. As Gakuto recoils, he notices Kiyoshi's urgent need to relieve himself and informs Hana. Kiyoshi pleads for him to be silent, but it is too late. Hana permits him to go to the bathroom. She follows him the entire way. He attempts to run and lock himself in a stall, but Hana vaults over the door, creating a private space for the golden sprinkler. She forces him to remain in place as she prepares to observe, but by the grace of the anime gods, Hana slips in the ensuing chaos. Kiyoshi's pants fall down at the precise moment he relieved himself, showering Hana's face. Meanwhile, Miko is drinking water when she hears Hana's scream. She arrives at the scene to find Hana on the ground, drenched in Kiyoshi's golden, salty water. Kiyoshi abandons the crime scene, and Miko subsequently informs the boys that Hana will be unavailable. Gakuto commends Kiyoshi for his actions, which have successfully set their scheme into motion. Several days later, Gakuto and Kiyoshi resolve to test the hole, verifying its viability for their ultimate objective. With Hana absent, Miko only performs sporadic checks. Seizing the moment she departs, Kiyoshi emerges to survey his escape route. His frustration mounts upon witnessing a couple stroll by, sparking a yearning for it to be him and Chiyo instead. Unexpectedly, Kiyoshi encounters the principal, who is there to enter a collection of his mother's vintage rice cake photographs, an act that inadvertently obstructs Kiyoshi's return. Meanwhile, the bell rings, and Miko demands Gakuto account for Kiyoshi's whereabouts. When he claims Kiyoshi is in the rear of the building, she calls for him repeatedly, receiving no answer. The principal finally concludes his interment, creating a narrow window for Kiyoshi to sprint back to the hole. He successfully navigates the passage but becomes lodged due to his dump truck. Just as Miko approaches at a deliberate pace, the moment she is poised to discover the hole, she slips on a piece of wood and tumbles face first. As she looks up, Kiyoshi is there, offering a hand. She reprimands both boys for the incident but fails to notice the concealed hole. Gakuto confides to Kiyoshi that his trap caused Miko's fall and that a new one will be essential for their escape day. Unbeknownst to them, Shingo observes. Later, as Kiyoshi and Gakuto continue their debate, Shingo attempts to join, prompting them to swiftly change the subject to allay suspicion. Miko then appears, bearing a striking resemblance to her mother when she once greeted him, leaving the boys awestruck. She informs them that while Kiyoshi's request for a dictionary, Joe's for an ant farm, and Gakuto's for a voice recorder are approved, the other boys' petitions for masturbatory materials and special Johnny Sins DVDs are denied. She then displays the monthly calendar, and the boys note the Saturday earmarked for Kiyoshi's escape bears a special annotation. Miko announces that on that day, they will undertake a special task away from the shed's location, and Shingo will be teamed with Kiyoshi and Gakuto. The next day, as Kiyoshi and Gakuto strategize how to handle Shingo's involvement, Shingo overhears from a distance and misinterprets their conversation, believing they wish to press pickles between his sweet, masculine buttocks. Later, while Shingo cues for a shower, Kiyoshi and Gakuto are already inside. Gakuto accidentally drops the soap before Kiyoshi, and as he bends to retrieve it, Shingo enters. The scene convinces Shingo that Gakuto is a goblin specialist. He hides, attempting to rationalize what he saw, just as Gakuto slips in front of Kiyoshi. When Kiyoshi moves to aid him, Shingo looks again and witnesses what he assumes Did is likely doing in prison. He makes a noise, leading Kiyoshi and Gakuto to fear he has overheard their plan. They try to coax him into joining them, but he flees, convinced his own cheeks are next. The following day, as Miko squats to build a dump truck, Shingo requests a scheduled transfer for that Saturday. Miko consents, much to Kiyoshi and Gakuto's relief. Later, Kiyoshi reconnoiters his assigned post to plot a path to the hole but makes a discovery while inside. Simultaneously, Gakuto, stationed near the hole, hears Kiyoshi's voice emanating from below and finds him in a drain. Kiyoshi explains the drain connects the bathrooms to the hole and returns to the toilet. En route, he passes Shingo, who recounts seeing Kiyoshi give Gakuto the prison schnitzel. Kiyoshi is infuriated by this profound misunderstanding. Miko appears to scold the boys and resumes her training with squats. Beneath her, Kiyoshi gets an unobstructed view. He continues watching as her juices drip onto him, but as he prepares to leave, she slips and accidentally steps on the hole to his plot. Later, Miko questions Kiyoshi's prolonged bathroom absence. As Gakuto attempts to fabricate a cover story, Shingo divulges that Kiyoshi has hemorrhoids. All eyes turn to Kiyoshi, noting the blood on his back. While Miko sympathizes with his condition, the other boys assume Gakuto's Willie is responsible. That night, clad in short shorts, Miko distributes the requested items and announces a computer class with female students the next day. While the boys are elated, Gakuto has a special plan involving his voice recorder. During the class, the girls avoid them due to their odor, but Chio enters and greets Kiyoshi with a smile. On the computer, Gakuto informs Kiyoshi he will download defecation sounds from the internet. Failing to find any, he declares they must produce them manually. Neither is willing, but Gakuto insists that since Kiyoshi has a date, he must do it. As Kiyoshi pleads with him not to cause shame, Gakuto releases everything, all for the sake of limited edition figures, causing a commotion and recording the noise for use as a distraction, effectively obliterating his high school life. Meanwhile, the principal is laying more of his prized Mia Khalifa photographs on the ground and cementing over them, ensuring he will never be shamed by them. Again, once finished, he passes by Kiyoshi's hole. When Kiyoshi goes to inspect it, he finds it completely sealed. At dinner, both boys deduce a school employee must have closed it. Gakuto blames Kiyoshi for not checking on his responsibility. Gakuto spirals, screaming about how he destroyed his high school life by becoming a Willy Wonka in class for Kiyoshi, only for Kiyoshi to fail his part. Their argument is overheard, and the others blame Kiyoshi's enormous Dingalen for leaving the hole in. Gakuto's plan loose. Miko appears to beat Gakuto into silence, and the onlookers tell him to stop fighting like lovers. Kiyoshi claims it is a misunderstanding, but cannot reveal the truth, cementing the others' belief that Gakuto is the submissive one. That night, Kiyoshi is haunted by Gakuto's words and through the door. He can still hear Gakuto's agonized screams lamenting the loss of his high school life and his limited edition figures. The next day, finding Gakuto despondent, Kiyoshi confronts him, vowing their escape will still succeed. When Gakuto doubts him, Kiyoshi reveals he will disguise himself as a girl and exit through the front gate. He tasks Gakuto with procuring a uniform from the laundry. That night, Gakuto devises a plan. The next day, while Miko is punishing him, he becomes aggressive and touches her in ways that would land him on an FBI watch list, resulting in a severe beating. Needing to do more, he charges at Mari and Miko, evades Miko's attack like Neo, and pulls up Mari's skirt for all to see. For this, Miko pummels him into pulp, but he informs Kiyoshi it was necessary. That evening, Gakuto apologizes to Miko. She dons latex gloves and retrieves a vibrant pink item from a drawer as his punishment. When Gakuto returns to the cell block, he is completely bald, explaining Miko shaved his head. He hands Kiyoshi a bag containing his hair for a wig. Kiyoshi realizes the plan might now work. The next day, they spy on the girls' laundry to steal clothes, and Kiyoshi accesses it via a gutter. He is thwarted by an intimidating laundry worker, but Gakuto has a plan. Gakuto, also bald, begins vaunting his own head, claiming Gakuto's is more beautiful. The worker takes the bait, and Kiyoshi slips inside. He is momentarily distracted by Miko's purple underwear. While the worker is distracted, Shingo sees Gakuto barking madly and pulls him back, causing the worker to return. Kiyoshi hides in a truck and finds a uniform but becomes trapped as the worker prepares to depart. The truck stops after hitting something, a laundry basket, giving Kiyoshi a chance to escape. That night, Mari chastises Miko for failing to discipline the boys, deeming her methods ineffective, and warns of consequences for further failure. The next morning, Kiyoshi dons his disguise under his clothes before Miko unlocks the cells. Their daily activity involves guarding the girls' bags during exercise. From his voluminous shorts, Gakuto produces his recorder and declares the plan active. Hours later, the moment arrives. Kiyoshi places a speaker in a toilet and enters the sewer to escape. Emerging, he dons the disguise. but a wire from his wig lands on Miko's face, arousing her suspicion. Meanwhile, Kiyoshi struggles with the ill-fitting uniform, tearing it. He uses the bag to cover the rip when Miko sees him, leading her to believe he is merely a female student. He approaches the front gate, on the cusp of freedom like Aaron, when Mari pulls him back. He fears he is caught, but she merely advises him not to wear his bag that way. When she pulls the backpack down, sees the torn clothes, and replaces it, apologizing for nearly embarrassing his cutting-edge feminine style. Kiyoshi arrives at the meetup location, where Chiyo greets him. Noting his perspiration, she offers a towel. As he uses it, he nearly distributes his sweet nectar everywhere, but she quickly pulls him away to watch the show. They set up a picnic, and Chiyo offers him rice cakes, which he eats cheerfully despite their horrific taste. Meanwhile, Miko confronts Kikuto over Kiyoshi's absence. When he claims Kiyoshi is in the bathroom, she goes to investigate for herself. With the loudspeaker activated, Kikuto presses a button that emits a sound effect, creating the illusion that Kiyoshi is locked in a ferocious battle against demons within the stall. Satisfied, Miko leaves him be. Back at their meeting, Chiyo requests a photo with Kiyoshi. He readily agrees, savoring how much they resemble a couple, until a sudden stomach ache forces him to excuse himself to the restroom. Upon his return, he discovers that Chiyo has accidentally spilled some tea on her bag. While inspecting the damage, she finds a woman's blazer inside. When Kiyoshi sits back down, Chiyo's demeanor shifts completely. She calls him disgusting and storms away. He is bewildered by her reaction until he checks the blazer and realizes it is the very one he stole. It belongs to Chiyo. Understanding he has ruined everything, a despondent Kiyoshi heads to the train station, contemplating ending it all. Meanwhile, Joe questions Kikuto about Kiyoshi's whereabouts. When Joe moves toward the restroom, Kikuto tries to block him, but Miko arrives to kick them both aside and investigate herself. She calls for Kiyoshi and, receiving no answer, grows impatient. Kikuto attempts to press his button, but no sound emerges from the stall. Miko finally kicks the door in, finding a tearful Yoshi inside. She simply assumes he is crying over his hemorrhoids and departs. Kikuto, however, praises his timing and asks if his tears are because he failed to purchase the figurines. Kiyoshi shows him the acquired figures, but Kikuto hastily hides them in the restroom. As Kiyoshi tries to explain what happened on his date, Kikuto dismisses him. Upon exiting, they find Mari waiting. She reveals she knows Kiyoshi was the girl she turned away at the sumo tournament entrance. When Kiyoshi plays dumb, Mari produces a photo of him with Chiyo and discloses that Chiyo is her younger sister, who share the entire story with her. Mari, the older sister, Miko searches Kiyoshi's bag, finding the wig and blazer. Upon closer inspection, she informs Mari it is Chiyo's blazer, a discovery that disgusts them both. After the girls leave, Shingo punches Kiyoshi, condemning his selfishness for fleeing and causing their sentences to be extended. Andre pulls Shingo back, and they leave Kiyoshi weeping as the ultimate loser. The council then confines Kiyoshi to a dark room for interrogation. They question him about his escape, and he claims sole responsibility, insisting Kikuto did not assist him, a story they believe. When questioned about Chiyo's blazer, he swears he obtained it by pure coincidence with no intention of using it to escape. The next day, the council assembles the boys for their sentencing. While the others receive an extra month of imprisonment, Kiyoshi is sentenced to expulsion. Later, Kikuto attempts to rally the boys to contest the decision, appealing to Shingo, Kiyoshi's oldest friend, to join him. However, Shingo tells Kikuto he no longer considers Kiyoshi a friend, arguing that Kiyoshi's failure to confide his escape plans proves he never trusted them, not the other way around. Meanwhile, Miko expresses concerns to Mari that the council lacks the authority to expel a student. Mari produces a document that shocks Miko, stating they will force Kiyoshi to sign his own withdrawal form. The following day during lunch, Chiyo confesses her regret to a friend about labeling Kiyoshi a depraved pervert without giving him a chance to explain. At that moment, some girls gossip about a boy being expelled for cross-dressing to escape. Chiyo realizes something is amiss. Later, the council brings Kiyoshi to their office to sign a form stating he is withdrawing voluntarily. As he hesitates, Mari convinces him it is for his own good, as he will now be treated as a new Diddy and would be better off changing schools. Kiyoshi places his pen on the form, but before he can sign, Chiyo bursts in, telling him to stop and defending his actions. She claims she was the one who invited him, meaning if Kiyoshi is expelled, she should be too. Miko smacks Kiyoshi on the head, and Chiyo pulls him into her bosom to comfort him, where he nearly loses himself in the situation. The two sisters argue, but when Chiyo tells Mari that Kiyoshi once kindly saved a crow fledgling, Mari hesitates. She demands Kiyoshi sign a new form, but after Chiyo's defense, Kiyoshi refuses, affirming his promise to be rehabilitated in prison. Defeated, Mari tells him to leave the room, and Chiyo threatens to drop out of school if they try this again. Later, as Miko escorts Kiyoshi back to prison, he is still lost in thoughts of Chiyo's breasts. However, upon his return, all the boys except Gakuto treat him horribly, ostracizing him for nearly getting expelled. Meanwhile, before her bath, Mari tells Miko she is planning to expel not just Kiyoshi, but all the boys from the school. She begins cataloging their weaknesses, from Joe's ant farm to Andre's diary, where he writes of his desire to be suffocated by Miko's body. Days later, the boys are tasked with splitting into two groups, one to clean the bathrooms, the other the storage shed. Though Gakuto wants to join Kiyoshi for bathroom duty, Shingo forces him to join their group, leaving Kiyoshi alone to clean the toilets. While cleaning, Kiyoshi notices someone is in a stall and waits for them to finish. When the occupant emerges, it is a visibly uncomfortable Hana. Kiyoshi quickly moves in to start cleaning, but Hana corners him. She warns that the next time her tank is full, she will do to him what he did to her. Give him a golden shower. Hana then rejoins the other girls, and Mari informs them of the plan to expel all the boys. Noting how Kiyoshi is being avoided and seeing him clean the bathrooms alone while Shingo acts like the group's boss, they decide to use Shingo as their weapon. Later, Miko summons Shingo for a private conversation. She begins by devouring a white, creamy cake before offering him some. He eats like a feral animal, and Miko asks him to be their spy. Meanwhile, Kiyoshi assures Gakuto that he is fine being alone after what he did. Before Gakuto can respond, Shingo enters. Gakuto leaves the room and begins to cry, overwhelmed with guilt for abandoning his friend. The next morning, the boys encounter some girls and are slapped by Miko, though she leaves Andre and Joe unpunished. Andre, feeling invincible, accidentally knocks over Joe's ant farm. This sparks a fight between them. A confrontation Joe files away as more information. Later, in front of Hot Pot, Miko offers delicious meat in exchange for intel, and Shingo informs on Joe's ant farm. While the boys play outside, with Kiyoshi still ignored, Joe is busy tending to his ants. Dozing off, Kiyoshi awakens to see Shingo speaking privately with Miko when no one is looking. At that moment, Shingo calls Joe away from his ants. As he does, one of Mari's crows attacks the farm. Joe tries to save them, but Miko blocks him. He grabs her melons to push her away. However, Hana is there to kick his head and stop him, leaving him powerless on the ground. Unable to save his ants, Mari reprimands Joe for hurting Miko over some stupid ants as the entire school watches. Joe charges at Mari with a sharpened wooden stick. Kiyoshi quickly restrains him to save Mari, but when the dust settles, Kiyoshi is left with a large splinter embedded in his rear. Everyone is shocked, but Kiyoshi rises from the ground. As Mari tries to claim Joe did this to him, Kiyoshi informs everyone it is merely a small splinter and the blood is from his hemorrhoids. Mari orders Miko to take Joe to solitary confinement, while Hana insists on taking Kiyoshi to the infirmary, to which Mari agrees in solitary. Joe blames Mari's crow for the death of his ants, but the council brings all his ants alive and well, which astonishes him. Mari informs him that crows practice anteing, bathing in ants to cover themselves and their secretions as an insecticide. They state that since Joe misunderstood, he must face the consequences. Meanwhile, Hana gives Kiyoshi an ointment for his wound but walks in on him exposed and tells him to urinate. He refuses, and they begin to struggle as Hana tries to force him to urinate in front of her. Failing that, she tells him to turn around so she can urinate on his back. Before she can activate her golden powder, Chiyo enters the room. They scramble to hide under the bed as Chiyo searches for Kiyoshi. Due to their proximity, Hana feels a torpedo is about to be launched beneath her. When Chiyo leaves, Kiyoshi apologizes for his anaconda, but when he looks at Hana, she is unconscious and drenched in sweat. Meanwhile, Shingo is helping Miko with her sit-ups while devouring her melons with his eyes. He expresses that after what happened with Joe, he doesn't want to keep helping them, but Miko threatens him, saying he must continue being her informant and live luxuriously, or she will tell the boys how he has been betraying them. The next day, the boys continue working. Kiyoshi notices Hana looking at him, but unlike him, who remembers everything, Hana has no recollection of what happened under the bed. During a break, Shingo tries to bully him again, ordering Kiyoshi like a slave to fetch a kettle between them. Before he can, Joe tells Shingo to cut it out and stop acting like a child. Shingo nearly starts a fight but stops when he remembers his own treachery. At that moment, Miko calls Shingo for another private talk, ordering the other boys to get back to work. Joe offers Kiyoshi a drink and thanks him for saving him from a real prison for assaulting Mari. Kiyoshi tells him not to worry about it, and they laugh as friends. Kiyoshi then points out how during the ant incident, it was unusual for all three council members to be present and that he saw Shingo talking with Miko. Meanwhile, Miko presents Shingo with school uniform. When he asks what it's for, she says that for his loyalty. The the council has granted him 2 hours of freedom to explore the outside world. Shingo wanders the city, also tasked by Miko with picking up a hood bear. First, he visits an arcade. There, he loses a game of Tekken, and when he expresses his frustration, his opponent, a girl named Anzu, recognizes him from school. She asks how a boy, is out of prison. Shingo tells her he is running errands for the council for being a good prisoner. As they talk, Shingo falls for her plans and her melons. Before he can try to impress her, Anzu's friends call her away, and he realizes that to see her again, he will have to do another favor. Meanwhile, Gakuto is in the restroom, begging his figurines for mercy over how he betrayed his friend Kiyoshi. While he isn't looking, his toy sword breaks. Later, Shingo returns to school to deliver root beer to Miko. When she opens it, it sprays, leaving her wetter and stickier than his grandmother on a night with his uncle. When Shingo goes to the restroom, he finds Gakuto's broken toy sword and pockets it, though he doesn't know what it is. Then, while the others are working, Shingo wants to eat the fried chicken Miko is making to get it. He presents the toy sword to Miko as information, but she throws it back at him after learning he found it in the restroom, and it lands in the cooking ingredients. Meanwhile, Gakuto is in a state of panic within the bathroom, having lost his toy sword after Hana ordered him to cease his games. In the council room, the girls are enjoying snacks when Mari inadvertently bites down on the plastic sword, recognizing it as a Chinese-made toy. Miko investigates the item online, locates the exact model, and subsequently discovers Gakuto's toy in the restroom. Later, she grants Shingo another outing. After confiscating the object, while a despondent Gakuto mourns his loss, unaware that Miko has recovered it, Miko reports her find to Mari, and they deliberate on how to proceed. At the arcade, Shingo is enjoying a pleasant time with Anzu, who treats him to ice cream. He becomes visibly flustered by the suggestive way she licks her frozen treat. Anzu produces a movie ticket and invites him, but upon learning he lacks sufficient free time, she instead gifts him her hair ribbon. She instructs him to tie it to the prison barricade whenever he is released again so they may attend together. Back at the institution, the student council is distributing snacks to the prisoners. When Miko reaches Gakuto, she deliberately presents him with a toy sword, shocking him. She reveals the entire action figure and demands he confess that the toy is his and that he aided Kiyoshi's escape. Gakuto vehemently denies the allegations, but Miko knows precisely how much the figurine means to him, recalling how he once soiled his trousers and humiliated himself for its sake. Seeing Gakuto on the verge of capitulation, Miko places the toy on the floor and settles her ample cheeks upon it, a sight that makes us all wish to be that fortunate plastic horse. Having endured enough, Gakuto lunges to rescue the toy for being crushed. Miko informs Mari that Gakuto was indeed complicit in Kiyoshi's flight, a confession that will result in extended incarceration for all the prisoners, too. Everyone's astonishment, Gakuto then seizes the action figure and smashes it on the ground, adamantly declaring it was never his. He takes his snack and departs. When Kiyoshi tries to console him, he finds Gakuto in tears over the destruction of his most prized possession. Yet Gakuto claims he is alright, confessing he feels greater guilt for having failed to stand by Kiyoshi when he was being bullied. As the council debates their failure, Shingo returns from his day out. Upon seeing the shattered sword on the floor, he reveals it is the same one he found on the bathroom floor. Mari is horrified to hear this, recalling the time she bit it, and she faints the knowledge that her mouth will forever smell of plastic derriere. Later, Miko apologizes to a furious Mari, but when Mari refuses to take action, Miko bursts into the council room, begging to be beaten as punishment. Mari ignores her, which only heightens Miko's anxiety. Meanwhile, Gakuto apologizes and admits to the others that he was involved in Kiyoshi's escape. Shingo reacts with arrogance, proclaiming they should treat Gakuto like trash for his betrayal. To his surprise, however, both Andre and Joe disagree, since the student council never officially discovered the plot and they faced no additional punishment. Thanks to Gakuto destroying the evidence, they see no reason to condemn him. Shingo attempts to provoke them by stating Gakuto was selfishly enjoying the toy in the bathroom alone. Hearing this, they question how Shingo knew the toy was in the bathroom, as its location was supposedly a secret. Shingo quickly evades the question and leaves. Meanwhile, Miko remains on her knees awaiting punishment when Hana enters and hands her a package. The next day, the boys are shocked to see Miko wearing a sealed uniform that completely conceals her melons and curves. Even so, Andre still yearns for her punishment. He intentionally makes mistakes, hoping she will make him lick her boots. Knowing his weakness, Miko ignores him and chooses to punish the others instead, leaving Andre, who craves her discipline, utterly disappointed. However, her new uniform makes it difficult for Miko to breathe, and the following day, she nearly faints until Chio saves her and takes her to the council room to rest. There, Chiyo discovers a book detailing the council's plan to expel the subjects who engage in sausage creaming at school. When Mari enters, Chiyo quickly pretends nothing happened and flees. Meanwhile, Andre is struggling without Miko's punishments and pours all his feelings into his diary. Unbeknownst to him, Mari has access to the diary whenever he leaves his room and plans to activate her scheme to eliminate the boys. Chiyo is outside, listening to everything. Days later, Andre is completely dejected from a lack of punishment, while Shingo receives permission to go out again and leaves a hair tie on the prison grate as a signal for Anzu. Meanwhile, Kiyoshi is pondering recent events and their potential connection to Shingo. As he tries to question him, Shingo is summoned by Miko for his outing. He goes to see a movie with Anzu, thanking the plot gods for this moment. Back at school, the prisoners are walking when they pass Chiyo playing a board game. Kiyoshi looks closer and sees Chiyo is trying to communicate something to him. In the shower, Kiyoshi tries to decipher the code Chiyo sent, but his foolish head is too stupid to manage it. At that moment, the depressed Andre begins hallucinating Miko, calling him to receive his punishment. He follows the voice, sees a vision of Miko before him, and lunges for her melons, only to discover a cardboard cutout. He then notices an open door and, entering, is confused to find his diary there. He opens it and reads an account of everything that just happened to him, from finding the cutout to discovering the diary. The entry continues, stating that if Andre leaves, Miko is waiting outside to punish him. He exits and finds Miko there with a whip in hand, ready to make him wallow in discipline. Back with Kiyoshi, he tells Kikuto and Joe what he saw and writes it on the window for them to read. Unlike Kiyoshi, Kikuto can read it and deciphers that the council is planning to expel them. Kiyoshi understands the message and goes to find Andre. While he cannot locate him, Kikuto and Joe discover the Miko cardboard cutout. With Andre, Miko is luring him in, telling him to lean forward. Her clothes tear from the sheer quantity of plot she possesses, which only inflames Andre's desire further. He lunges toward Miko and is caught on barbed wire but refuses to stop, driven by the promise of the almighty thing. At that moment, the others rush to the door and see Andre on the wire, begging him to stop, but it is too late. Andre is completely out of control and breaks through the wire. As Miko beats him, Andre crosses the boundary line, meaning he, like Kiyoshi, has officially escaped the prison and Hana detains him. Kiyoshi realizes this was their plan all along, but Mari still needs one more escape and cannot wait for Shingo to also break. Meanwhile, Shingo is enjoying his date with Anzu in the park after the movie. She pinches his cheek and he moves to kiss her, but because he finds her reminiscent of his girl without makeup, Anzu recoils. She tells him to pinch her cheeks in return, and as he does, he imagines pinching the cheeks below. At that moment, Shingo sees a child being bullied by his friends and intervenes to defend him. Even after stopping them, he is struck by guilt over his own treatment of Kiyoshi and confesses everything to Anzu. After hearing the truth, Anzu begins to cry. Wee asks why she reveals her own truth. Weeks ago, Mari tasked her with seducing Shingo and ensuring he fell in love with her. Today's mission was to keep Shingo occupied past 6:30, so he would be considered an escape. Shingo checks his watch, believing he has time, but Anzu informs him she set his watch ahead by 30 minutes during the movie. He sprints back with only 5 minutes to reach school before the boys are expelled, but out of nowhere, he is hit by a car. Meanwhile, the boys are on their knees awaiting Shingo's return. Miko informs them that had they stayed in school, they would be participating in a seaside school event, where the girls get wet and there is a wet t-shirt contest. Hearing this, they scream Shingo's name, hoping he will return in time for the contest. Back with Shingo, he sees the person who hit him is the bald laundryman. Shingo pleads for his help. He arrives with 1 minute to spare, shocking the council, but with 10 seconds left, he tries to open the door and fails. Time expires, and Shingo is deemed to have escaped, meaning the boys will be expelled. Shingo accuses them of cheating by locking the door, but Miko demonstrates it is a sliding door, a fact he failed to perceive. The next day, Shingo apologizes to the boys for his selfishness, admitting he is no different from Kiyoshi, whom he mistreated. Kiyoshi orders him to stand up and, since Shingo once punched him for escaping, accepts that Kiyoshi may do the same. However, Kiyoshi merely taps his shoulder and forgives him, stating they are all equally culpable. They all understand his error, and Shingo weeps copiously. Yet, when Shingo starts talking about Anzu and pinching each other's cheeks, Kiyoshi punches him and the others join in beating him. Afterward, the boys are brought before the principal, although Chiyo is there to support them. She possesses no concrete evidence of the council's manipulative plot to expel them. After Chiyo leaves, Mari pressures the principal to expel the boys, leveraging her influence, and with little choice, he agrees to follow the rules. Moments later, the council celebrates its success, and Miko does push-ups to express her joy. But suddenly, The door swings open. Anzu enters and confesses the entire truth to Mari about helping Shingo. Since the plan succeeded anyway, they dismissed her. However, because Anzu knows of their malicious scheme, they decide to monitor her closely. Meanwhile, boys are despondent after their defeat, but Kiyoshi refuses to surrender. He tells them they must get their hands on that evil document. At that moment, Shingo remembers seeing it somewhere and informs the group. He recounts seeing it on the computer in the correction room, but as they consider retrieving it, they realize it is likely futile, as the data has probably already been deleted. However, Gakuto, asserting his expertise in computing, informs them he can recover it. At that moment, Miko enters to deliver their food but accidentally drops her panties. As she bends over to retrieve them, Kiyoshi drops his rag and, glancing upward, is met with the most succulent roast beef he has laid eyes on since dining at Abe's. After Miko's departure, Kiyoshi rallies the boys, insisting they must acquire that data for both the t-shirt contest and a glimpse of Miko's prize cut. They deliberate over plans to infiltrate the room undetected, but after days of meetings, they are no closer to a solution. The situation deteriorates further when Miko announces they only require the president's final approval to be expelled. Left with little choice, Gakuto proposes they steal the prison key directly from Miko. Though the boys doubt their ability to overcome her robust physique, Gakuto has an idea. Later, as Miko approaches the cell, she finds the boys engaged in an arm wrestling match, and they intentionally taunt her, claiming Andre would defeat her. Miko takes the bait and challenges Andre, but Gakuto positions himself as her first opponent. Flexing his muscles, Miko effortlessly defeats him. Before she can face Andre, Kiyoshi steps up as the next challenger. They prepare for the match, and Kiyoshi struggles valiantly against Miko's strength. Just before she wins, Shingo purposely jostles the table, causing him to fall. Seizing this opportunity, Gakuto snatches the cell keys from Miko to access the correction room and obtain the data. With the keys in hand, Gakuto estimates he will need 10 minutes to recover the deleted files. Kiyoshi challenges Miko to a rematch at a new table. The contest begins again, and this time Kiyoshi performs better, but Miko increases her force and defeats him in under a minute, longer than any of them could last with her in other circumstances, leaving Gakuto with only 9 minutes. Shingo then enters the challenge to buy more time, attempting a strategy of chattering about their hands. Miko orders him to shut up and start wrestling. He lasts less than a second, granting Gakuto a mere half-minute. Joe rises to challenge Miko. When he reveals his masculine muscles, Miko cannot believe how scrawny he is. Their match concludes with him being flung against the wall like a shot put. With Andre as their last opponent, she removes her jacket, ready for battle. Andre needs to win 7 minutes for Gakuto. Suddenly, Miko notices a hair on his pepperoni, which breaks her concentration. Once the battle commences, she struggles to defeat Andre because of the hair. Whenever she is about to use her full power, it weakens her. This causes Miko to envision a lone tree in the desert, waiting for someone to end its suffering. This distraction, however, buys Gakuto more time. As they struggle, Miko begins to insult Andre, but her taunts only make him stronger. With 2 minutes remaining, Miko concentrates and decides to close her eyes, unwilling to see the hair or Andre's face as he strains against her insults. With a final surge, Miko wins. Andre screams in joy, but with only 1 minute left, the boys are doomed. As Miko puts her jacket back on, she realizes her keys are missing, but when she looks back, Gakuto is right there, pretending to retrieve them for her. After she leaves, the boys celebrate their victory, but Gakuto appears despondent. When questioned, he delivers the bad news. He was on the verge of recovering the data when he heard Andre's triumphant shout and had to return immediately, empty-handed. Their hope is lost. That night, feeling a semblance of relief, they reminisce about how hard they fought to get this far and all cry themselves to sleep. The next morning, the despondent boys find Gakuto has completely lost his mind, evacuating uncontrollably while singing songs. With only 1 day remaining, Miko brings them their meal and asks what they want for their last supper before departure. While the others choose normal food, Gakuto selects fried grasshoppers and Andre requests a soup made from Miko's love juice. Miko only honors the others' requests. While biting into his bread, Kiyoshi finds a note from Chiyo asking for his news. With little to say, he sends a message back simply saying goodbye. Later, Miko presents the boys with the food they requested. While the others enjoy their meal, Gakuto chokes on his fried grasshoppers because they taste like insects. This, however, shocks him back to his senses, with no memory of ordering the dish or the days that have passed. He informs the boys that after seeing Chiyo's message, he has a new escape plan. After he explains, no one but Gakuto feels optimistic. When he asks why, they explain the plan itself isn't the problem. Gakuto realizes 2 days have passed since he lost his sanity. At that moment, Miko enters with documents for them to fill out to sign their own dismissals. Kiyoshi sees this as a chance to write their appeal to buy more time to obtain proof they were sabotaged, though Shingo feels pessimistic. Kiyoshi reminds him of the upcoming wet t-shirt contest, which excites him. They finish the appeal letter and beg Miko to let them appeal to the principal, knowing it is futile. She accepts, knowing it is pointless, but becomes irritated upon leaving when she sees Gakuto didn't finish his grasshoppers after she worked hard to get them. The next day, the boys wait in agony for the president, but it is Miko who appears to escort them to the school for their official expulsion as they exit. Gakuto sees their torn appeal letter on the floor and realizes Miko destroyed it. When he tries to protest, Miko beats him. Meanwhile, Hana is in a cooking class. When she holds a mushroom, she begins to remember something. As the mushroom falls under the table and she goes to retrieve it, another falls between her legs. She remembers everything about Kiyoshi's Beetlejuice in the same position and now desires vengeance. Back with the boys, they are on the stairs en route to expulsion when, just as Mari is about to take over, the principal himself appears, stating he needs to speak with them. The girls begin to panic, and the principal orders the boys back to prison for a discussion. There, they have a debate, and while Miko tries to figure out how the boys manage the appeal, it is revealed Kiyoshi was behind it the entire time. He informs them that when they presented the appeal to Miko, he sneakily left another appeal within his dismissal letter, knowing she wouldn't check it. However, the principal is not satisfied, as what Kiyoshi wrote in his expulsion letter is blackmail against him. Kiyoshi is prepared to expose his buried treasure on school grounds if they don't talk. They ask the principal for time to obtain proof before making any decision. The principal poses a very important question: melons or cake? Gakuto is about to say melons when Kiyoshi stops him and takes charge. He thinks deeply, remembers the principal's treasure, and answers cake. The principal is impressed, stating no man who prefers cheeks could be all bad. However, he asks why to see if they are true cheek lovers like him. The principal demands Kiyoshi's answer, and he begins to think intensely. Meanwhile, Miko is trying to eavesdrop outside when Hana appears with a knife, wanting to cut off Kiyoshi's piece. As Hana tries to force her way in, Miko knocks her out to prevent an incident. Back with Kiyoshi, he uses his entire brain capacity and arrives at his answer. He delivers the tongue of the gods, asserting that since the dawn of humanity, all people saw were cake. But when humans learned to walk upright, they could see the melons on females, which means melons are nothing but a cheap substitute for cake. After hearing this, the principal embraces him, declaring Kiyoshi a man of culture, and agrees to postpone their expulsion, but he can only give them 1 day. When the principal leaves, he argues with Mari about his decision but remains firm, leaving Mari defeated. With this 1 day, the boys step into the light of their freedom and refuse to stop fighting for their future. Meanwhile, the girls are frustrated by this turn of events. Seeking her own vengeance, Hana requests to be the one to handle the prisoner's final day. Miko disagrees with sending Hana after seeing her lose control earlier, but Hana assures the council she will be composed. Returning to the boys, they discuss their plans to get the data, which involves Chiyo and challenging Miko again to distract her. Gakuto suggests Andre challenge Miko to a battle to buy time for him to get the data, but just as Andre is excited to choke on Miko, their dreams crumble when Hana enters, replacing Miko's duties. Gakuto tries to challenge Hana to a battle, but is kicked into the wall, and they realize they are in deep trouble. Hana then delivers their food, and when it is Kiyoshi's turn, she interrupts him. She states that because she remembers what happened between them, she will have her revenge. Meanwhile, Miko is in her room psyching herself up, still frustrated at being replaced, when Mari enters, while Miko apologizes for her mistakes. Mari assures her she never questioned Miko's loyalty and chose Hana to replace her to make things unpredictable for the boys. However, Mari has a different job for Miko, to secretly prevent anything from happening tonight as she suspects the prisoners have planned. Meanwhile, Kiyoshi decides he will be the one to retrieve the data. When the others ask how, he informs them that Hana holds a grudge against him, but he doesn't want to tell them what it is. Later, as they finish eating, Chiyo purposely takes their dirty dishes to the kitchen, and when no one is looking, she reads the secret note Kiyoshi sent her, which says the plan will be executed tonight. However, another individual materializes behind Chiyo, and as she panics, it is revealed to be Anzu, there to prevent the boys' expulsion. Later, Kiyoshi stabs Gakuto in the head to injure him. As he does not feel sufficient pain, Joe stabs him even more forcefully, causing Gakuto to scream loudly enough to attract Hana's attention. Kiyoshi pleads to take Gakuto to the correction room, but Hana refuses and leaves, dismissing it as a minor injury. Gakuto, however, executes a clever gambit and begins yelling at Kiyoshi, telling him to reveal what he did to Hana, which successfully recaptures her attention. She then escorts them to the correction room to treat Kikudo's head, but upon returning them to the cell, Hana takes Kiyoshi with her to secure some privacy. That night, both Chio and Anzu are prepared for the plan, while Miko stands ready in her tightest jumpsuit to prevent any mishaps. Back with Hana, she produces a pair of scissors, making Kiyoshi scream in fear for his special friend. Instead of cutting him, however, she cuts a bottle and instructs Kiyoshi to urinate into it. Relieved, and to further his scheme, he drops his trousers, revealing himself to be a true mandingo. His calm demeanor in doing so leaves Hana astonished. He asks her to hold the bottle, and in a panic, she asks why. Kiyoshi fabricates an excuse about needing both hands to aim while urinating. Witnessing this, Hana refuses to be outdone by this weakling and also removes her trousers, revealing her roast beef and declaring she will urinate on him in return. The two engage in a battle of wills, but remembering his friends' sacrifices, Kiyoshi advances and pins Hana against a door. Just as he is about to unlock it, Hana kicks him, but he manages to unlock it, marking the first phase of his plan a success. However, when Kiyoshi looks up, he sees Hana's Medusa, which transforms his cocktail sausage into a schnitzel. He tells Hana his sausage at attention cannot urinate in that state. But Hana is indifferent and seizes the opportunity to drench him in retaliation. Suddenly, Miko shouts upon discovering someone, startling Hana and causing Kiyoshi to panic as he realizes the plan has failed with Chio captured. The girl Miko found, however, is not Chio but Anzu, who tells Chio she will sacrifice herself to give Chio a chance to complete her mission. Miko demands entry to the correction room, but unwilling to be exposed, Hana orders her to leave and locks the door. At that moment, Kiyoshi sees Hana's Medusa again. When he apologizes for looking at it, Hana begins to weep from the pain of the repeated humiliations Yoshi has inflicted upon her, from profaning her with his golden sprinkler to calling her Medusa Rosbef. She starts beating him in anger, but seeing it has no effect, Hana kisses him, stealing his first kiss. While Yoshi is stunned, Hana laughs, declaring she will take all his firsts from him and prevent him from sharing his first kiss with Chio. She continues kissing him out of hatred, and Kiyoshi is powerless to resist. Gasping for air, Kiyoshi pushes Hana away to break the kiss, but she punches him, pins him against the door, and continues kissing him to claim his first kiss. Meanwhile, Chio is outside the room, waiting for the door to be unlocked and the lights to go out before entering to play her part. Inside, Hana continues kissing Kiyoshi, and he realizes her kisses are like those from romantic movies, but he knows he must do more to knock her out. Kiyoshi becomes aggressive, which shocks her, making her begin to writhe and scream. Unable to contain the excitement, Hana floods the floor and bleeds from her nose. At that moment, Chio peers through the window, but since Hana is unconscious, she only sees the top of Kiyoshi. Kiyoshi then unlocks the door, and Chio interprets this as her signal to enter. Noticing he looks unwell, he tells her to wait, which makes Chio pause and also rouses Hana. Feeling dizzy, Hana wants to go home with the lights out. Chio sees her signal and enters. Meanwhile, Miko is interrogating Anzu in the council room. When Anzu refuses to talk, Miko suffocates her with her thing, making her smell the ocean. Still, she refuses to speak, leading Miko to believe Anzu is completely innocent. Mari then enters, and Miko explains everything. With Anzu unconscious, they believe she is innocent but remain suspicious of the overall situation. Hana brings Kiyoshi back to the cell, where he informs the others that the plan's first phase was a success. Miko receives a message from Hana stating she wants to go home and that all is clear, but Mari remains unconvinced and orders a check of the prison. Miko goes to inspect the bathroom, where she is desperately trying to remove her uniform, and Mari heads to the correction office. Finding no one there, she discovers the bottle Kiyoshi was holding and feels how warm it is, but she quickly runs to the bathroom upon hearing Miko scream. However, Miko only needed to urinate and informs Mari that all is clear and the prisoners did nothing. Thus, Mari feels confident that night that everything is proceeding well. The next morning, Miko wakes the prisoners for the last time after all they have endured. She leads them to face the council and the principal for their expulsion. While the principal reads their crimes, they remain silent. As the other council members feel confident, Miko feels unsettled by something she cannot identify. At that moment, someone is terrorizing the girls at school, chasing one and getting beaten by them. Mari confidently mocks the boys, telling them to say their final goodbyes, but Kiyoshi looks at her and declares that the prisoners have won. Right then, Miko realizes something is wrong and confronts Kikudo, demanding to know who he is. When he begins to squirm, she realizes it is Joe. When everyone looks under Joe's hoodie, they discover it has been Chio all along. They are all bewildered, their heads filled with questions. But the door opens, and the girls present the real Kikudo before them. After the students exit, Gakuto explains to the council members that the previous night, they switched places and Gakuto spent the entire night recovering the data without their knowledge. By the time Mari came to the room, Gakuto had long since departed with the data. He reaches into his prison jumpsuit and presents the principal with a pink hard drive, asserting that all the evidence of the council's malicious actions is contained within. Principal takes it and reads the entire document, realizing that everything that happened to the boys, from Joe's aunts being attacked to Shingo breaking curfew, was a result of the council's manipulation. Hana grows nervous, realizing her tongue getting tied was part of the plan and that Kiyoshi kissed her for nothing. She attacks Kiyoshi, but before she can punch him, Mari intervenes to block her, stating it is not her or Miko's fault, but hers alone. When the principal questions her, Mari admits the entire document is true and that they were behind it all. With this information, the principal agrees to punish the council and announces the boys' freedom. With the prison they called home behind them and the blue suits against their skin, the boys walk out of the prison as free men. In the days that follow, the boys enjoy their lives, going on dates and even meeting new people. However, due to the crimes the council committed, the school elects a superior governing power to punish them. They strip the girls of their pride, replacing their uniforms with a prison garb that once ruled the boys, and they march the council right in front of the boys into the prison that once stole the boys' freedom and will now steal the girls.